So from our side, as far as the hosts, so I'm Chase Summers. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Dataedo. I'll be kind of hosting. Richard will be doing most of the work. Richard is our data success manager, and he leads all of our training for our customers and ensures that all of our customers have a plan for how to approach the Dataedo project and their data governance project. And then alongside of us as well, who will be sharing some things at the end, is our founder and CEO, Piotr Kananov. Perfect. Richard,
Hello.
take it away.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's nice to be here. Nice to see you all. So, introduction, just briefly into this Dataedo Basics series. What we're hoping to accomplish here is to talk about, kind of the foundations of data cataloging and aspects of what make up a data catalog, and how Dataedo specifically focuses on some of these different aspects. So to begin with, today we're gonna start with the very most basic question: what is a data catalog? So the Dataversity definition is there in the middle. Dataversity gives us a very nice, concise definition that a data catalog inventories and makes critical data sets available for metadata management. Nice, concise definition that covers the basics there. I did take the liberty of talking to ChatGPT about data catalog, and there is what they said. It's basically the same thing as Dataversity with more words. There's a little more detail there, but in a nutshell, it's the same kind of idea that the data catalog inventories data assets and provides information, understanding about those data assets. Personally, I like to keep things very simple. So for me, my working definition is that a data catalog is a combination of a business glossary and a data dictionary. I just keep it simple at that level, and then I let the subsequent questions that we're going to get to answer the more detailed parts of that. So here's what what Dataedo looks like as we start to get into the data catalog. On the sidebar menu on the left, we can see that we do have the glossaries right there. So we can click there and get into glossaries that exist in the data catalog, along with understanding about the terminology there. We'll talk more. Then we have the data sources, which is basically the front end for the data dictionary. That's what we're looking at in the main content area. There is that front end, the entrance point to the data dictionary for the different data sources that we have metadata for. I have included report catalog right here. We're going to talk about that a little bit towards the end of this session. All right, so if we define a data catalog as the combination of a business glossary and a data dictionary, of course, we need to ask the question, what is a business glossary? And we'll get to what is a data dictionary in a second. A business glossary is a collection of concepts, terminology, terms and definitions for concepts that you use in your organization. The purpose of that is to promote and enable communication. It standardizes these terms and definitions so that people can communicate effectively, and by extension, understand what the concepts mean and understand how they're properly used and interpreted in other places, such as reporting. It's all about that standardized understanding of the terms and definitions. Now, I did put over here on the left a warning that dictionaries and glossaries are not the same thing. The business glossary focuses on concepts and their definitions, and dictionaries focus on the descriptions of physical data assets. And I'm going to keep coming back to this idea because it's very important as we go through this session. So here's an example of what an entry looks like for the business glossary in Dataedo. The entry, of course, is the purchase order, the term purchase order, and we have its definition right there, an accepted, reviewed and accepted definition that people in the organization can now agree when we say purchase order, this is what we mean. And along with that, you can see there are some relationships between that term and some other terms. And we've shown those relationships in a diagram here on the right. But the purpose for this is so that you not only know the term and its definition, but you start to build this matrix of understanding between that term and other terms. You see how they relate to each other and get deeper and deeper knowledge. And I'm going to go forward here. Here is another term. This happens to be a picture from Dataedo desktop, but it's the same underlying repository. Here we're looking at purchase order date rather than purchase order, but it's the same idea. For a term, we have an approved, accepted description or definition that people in the organization have gotten together and they've agreed upon this definition. They've standardized it. And there's some other metadata here that I'm not going to talk about. Here, we're looking at the related terms. So we can see that purchase order date is contained in a purchase order, and purchase order date has a related term of sales order date. Obviously, purchase order date and sales order date are not the same thing, but they're conceptually related. And so we show that here so that we get that matrix of knowledge and understanding so that people know where this term fits in the organization, and it adds more deep knowledge and understanding there. Down here at the bottom, we're looking at linked data assets. This is where we see that the concept of purchase order date is represented by data in these databases. It's in these tables, in these columns. So you see what we have here is we have the term, its accepted definition, its relationships to other terms in the glossary, and an understanding of where that data resides in our data systems. And I'm not showing an example of this on the picture, but we can also link reports to this so that you can see where that concept is reported in our reporting system. So you get this large picture of what the term is and where it's used, how it's used, so you can understand it very well. Now, some best practices to have to do with the business glossary. We'll go through these briefly. One glossary per organization, one term per concept, and one definition per term. The idea here is uniqueness. We want to have unique terms and unique definitions, and I'll talk more about those. And over here, a warning here that I'm going to talk about a little bit towards the end of this. So the first best practice here, one business glossary for the entire organization. This is an item for discussion, I'll grant that. But when you think about the primary purposes of the business glossary, those being to reduce siloing, to enable communication, to support consistency and consistent understanding in reporting, use and interpretation of reports, all of those things, the idea of a single glossary supports all of those. If you have multiple glossaries, then you are encouraging siloing. You are making it hard for people to apply consistency across the business. So the idea of a single business glossary is very desirable. And also, it makes it easier for your users just to find things, operationally speaking. If they only have to search in one glossary, they know that they found the answer. If there are multiple glossaries, they're not sure. If they find a term in one, they're not sure that it's the same definition, perhaps, to a term in another glossary. So again, it supports ease of access, consistency, all of those things. Now, I will admit that there are times when it's needful to have more than one glossary. There are situations where it's needful. All I say is, if you have to break the rule, go ahead and break the rule, but do it intentionally. Don't do it by accident. You bring in, you import terms and definitions for several different departments and put them into several different glossaries. That is an accidental creation of multiple glossaries. Do it intentionally. Understand that you want to have one glossary, but there is a specific reason that you need to break the rule. understand that, make it an obvious choice that you broke the rule. All right, one glossary term for each unique concept. This is talking about synonyms. So in this case, let's say we have in our business, we have a term client and we have a term customer. And let's assume that they have the same definition, they have the same meaning. People can use either term interchangeably. They're true synonyms. This can lead to trouble with communication. People use a different term in conversation or in reporting, things like that. It can lead to problems with this standardization that we're after. What you want to do is you want to rely on a single term, if possible, have a preferred synonym. So in this case, let's say we want to define customer as the preferred synonym. This is the word we want everyone to use. So if someone comes in and they search for the word client, this will point them to the fact that client has a preferred synonym of customer, and customer has a definition, an accepted, reviewed, agreed upon definition that is standardized and used throughout the organization. Over time, people will come to understand and use that preferred synonym. And if they don't, this glossary will point them to the right place. We want to make that work so that people come to use the standardized terminology. Now, I will accept this is really hard work to get people to change the habits of their communication and use terminology that isn't familiar to them. This is really hard work. All I can say is stick with it. Try to make this happen because it is worth the effort. In the end, you will have a better organization and understanding of your data systems. And another situation here is where you may have, the best practice is you may not have a term with multiple definitions. So our example here, we have 2 entries for the term subdomain. And I'm not going to read these definitions, but they are very different definitions. And it leads to confusion and misunderstandings. If someone says subdomain, depending on where that person is and their mindset, they're going to go to one of these definitions, and they may completely misunderstand what the other person was trying to say. And same thing for reports. I keep coming back to that. It's for communication and report creation and use, interpretation. So what we want to do is we want to have a situation where we have one term with one definition. So if you can, if the definitions are similar, then maybe you can combine them into a single definition that can be reviewed and accepted for the organization. If they are very different like this, maybe the solution is to come up with a different term for one of them or both of them, so that you have that uniqueness. That's the ideal situation, is a unique term and its unique definition. Now, this is really hard. Like I mentioned, people are creatures of habit, and they're used to the words that they're familiar with and the understandings. So it's really hard. It may be that it's simply impossible for you to come to a single term with a single definition. So in that case, go ahead, keep the term, but it's okay to add a modifier to that term. So subdomain as defined by the data governance team, subdomain as understood by the security team. This is not ideal, but it's better than just having the term. At least people have context so they can understand, what it is that's being talked about and who they're talking to potentially. Now, some people would go the route of saying, let's have one term in the glossary and put both definitions into the description field. This is not much better, honestly, because that kind of leads to a situation, where again, we know there's a term, but we don't know which description or which definition to use or what the other person is relying on. So that is not much better. I would urge you to not go that route. If you can't come up with unique terms for unique definitions, then it's okay to go with those modifiers. Now, I did promise that I was going to give you a warning here. The warning is this: don't be tempted to create glossary terms for your assets in your data dictionary. In this example, right here, you can see in this addresses table, we have a bunch of columns, and I created all of those columns over here in the Business Glossary as entries. The problem with this is that it blurs the lines between the purpose of the glossary and the dictionary. Remember, the glossary is about concepts and the dictionary is about defining assets. What you get if you do this sort of a situation is you have an extreme amount of work creating this. If you have 10,000 columns in your data systems, you certainly don't want to create 10,000 glossary entries for them, and you don't want to make your users search through 10,000 entries to find what they're looking for. So it's hard to create, it's hard to use, and it's hard to maintain. If something changes over here in the database, then you don't want to have to remember to go and make that change in the glossary. If you don't, then you're going to have this mismatch, the desynchronization of information. A better solution is to remember these are concepts. So in this example, we could create a glossary entry for the concept of an address, give it a definition that you like, and then rely on the link data assets function, which is right there. Rely on that to link it to places in the data system where that address information is stored or used in reports. That way, you get that concept separate from these objects. So you could link that address concept here, that address term, to address line 1, address line 2, possibly city, possibly state, depending on your definition. You link it to the appropriate columns over here. But that keeps that separation of the idea of focusing on concepts and focusing on object definitions separate. So just a warning, please resist the temptation to create glossary entries for every column in your database. Okay, moving on. What is a data dictionary? The dictionary itself is a collection of the metadata details about those objects in your data systems, the tables, the views, the columns, and so on. Down here, it lists some descriptions, relationships, lineages. There are others like sensitivity classification, ownership, profiling, a lot of things here that come into this data dictionary, a lot of aspects. In this session, we're going to focus on descriptions and titles. And of course, here again is that warning about not confusing a dictionary with a business glossary. Here's a view of what a table looks like in the data dictionary in Dataedo. This is in Portal. So we're looking at the person table, and we see a lot of metadata over here. Just to briefly mention some, right here, source description, we have the description that was provided by the engineers when they created this table. That is that source description. Above that, the user-friendly description that's provided for the business users. We're going to talk more about creating these. Down here, linked glossary entries. This is the other side. This is the reciprocal to the linked data assets that we were talking about a minute ago in the business glossary. So in this case, the person table has been linked to the concepts, the terms of customer, employee, lead, and vendor. You immediately know this person table isn't only about customers. It isn't only about employees. It's about people who can be in any of these categories. So it gives us a depth of knowledge there. Other things that are available here on different tabs, a relationships diagram, data lineage showing the flow of data through the system, foreign key relationships, primary keys are defined. All of these things and others are all part of this dictionary, as I mentioned, different aspects. Let's go on. This is the columns tab for that same person table. And here we see the columns listed along with metadata about them. Some of the metadata comes from the sources, like its nullability, constraints, data types, identity, those sorts of things come from the data sources. Also, we have the references. There's that that foreign key relationship right there. So you get that knowledge. As I mentioned, I'm going to focus on titles and descriptions here that you can edit or provide completely here in Dataedo. So the best practices for the data dictionary. Basically, the best practices are remember your audience and write good definitions. You know, it basically boils down to you need good definitions for the audience that you are speaking to. I will talk about titles in a minute, and then we'll mention the use of custom fields and how that can be added to your data dictionary. All right, so tips for writing good descriptions. As I mentioned, remember your audience. Remember who they are, give them the right amount of information, give them the right kind of information. The example here, if we look at the source description for this row GUID column, the source description, obviously, you can look at that and see this was written by an engineer for an engineer. And in that context, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that description. It's fine. But if you want to give that description to a business user, they're going to look at this and they're going to think they have no idea what it's talking about. It may as well be written in another language. Probably the only word they're going to recognize in that entire description is the word unique. Everything else, it's just not understandable for them. So remember your audience and provide a description that speaks to them. Give them the information that they need in language that they understand. Now, a caution here, and that is avoid applesauce definitions. And by that, I mean definitions where you simply restate the term. In other words, applesauce is sauce made from apples. Okay, great, but that doesn't tell us anything about applesauce. We already know that from the term. So we want to have information useful for the audience. In that case, a better choice here would be applesauce is a sweet food made from cooked apples. Okay, this actually tells us something. We know that it's food, it's not wallpaper paste, and we know that you have to cook the apples to get it. The apples are cooked. They're not ground up, they're not mashed, they're not whatever. They're cooked. So this actually gives us information that tells us something about applesauce rather than just restating. So again, if you remember one thing from this part of this presentation, it's don't write applesauce definitions. Write definitions that are meaningful to your audience. Okay, talking about titles. Everybody has, or everybody probably has, in their data systems, you have columns that have cryptic names. Here we have this row GUID. A business user doesn't know what that is. They're not going to be able to find it. It's too technical. And so you want to provide titles that are understandable to your business users. So in this case, I've provided this title, row ID. That allows the user to search and find this information if they need it. And of course, we have the descriptions. Now, where the discussion about titles comes in is when you get to titles that are they're descriptive, they're understandable. So looking at that first name, column name, there's no question what's in that column. But personally, this is personal, my preference is to always provide a title. In this case, you can see I added the space in there to make it readable, to make it, user-friendly, all of those things, so that business users can find it more easily. Business user is not going to search for this by first name with no space. They will put the space in. This increases that likelihood that they can search and find and recognize the information they're looking for. Now, as I said, this is my preference. If you want to do it and only provide those for those that have cryptic names, that's fine. Less work. For me, is the consistency that's important. I even go so far as to add titles, everywhere. For example, this person table, I added a title of persons. Consistency, readability, findability, those are the things that are important to me. So I like to go that little bit of extra effort and provide a title for everything. But of course, it's your personal preference. Okay, some hints about writing descriptions. The first one in here is don't beat yourself up. This is really hard work. It is a skill, and that skill needs to be developed over time with practice. Don't beat yourself up if you find that you don't like the descriptions you're writing. If maybe somebody, a user suggests an improvement, take that constructively and move on. Build your skills. And a year from now, if you come back and you look at your descriptions and say, hey, I can do better, that is really good, because it means your skill has improved. And as you rewrite them, the content and the quality of your dictionary and your glossary is going to improve. So don't beat yourself up, but try to improve that skill over time. The other items here: rely on your subject matter experts. They are experts. They know the tables, they know the columns, they know the data. Rely on them to help you get the right content in your descriptions. Now, a couple of ways you can do that. You might ask them to provide descriptions, ask them to author those. You might ask them to review descriptions that you or a colleague write. What you want to do in those cases, either case, you want to make it really easy for the subject matter expert to help you. Let's be realistic. Subject matter experts are busy. They have other demands on their time. And if you simply give them a link to the catalog and say, hey, will you review all of the descriptions for those tables that provide that apply to your subject area, or even will you provide descriptions for all of those tables, the chances of getting something back from them in that situation are really low. It's low priority to them, and they don't have a reason to be engaged and to help you. What you want to do is you want to make it really easy for them to contribute and to help you. So you could write those descriptions, send that particular section of the catalog to the subject matter expert, not everything, but the part you want them to look at, send it to them and say, would you review these descriptions? Even better, write those descriptions, export them to Excel, and say, would you review these descriptions and return this file to me by, and give them a due date. And then when you get it back, you can then import their corrections back into the data catalog. You want to make it easy for them to contribute. That'll increase the likelihood of you having a successful catalog with good content. Okay, I did refer to custom fields. The purpose of custom fields is to add other attributes, other metadata to your data catalog, other than those things that come in when you import the metadata from your data sources. So in this case, this example, I have added these 8 custom fields to my person tables. So I can now document who the owner is, who the subject matter expert is, the PII level, compliance level. These sorts of things I can document there and increase the depth of knowledge that's available to my users. One of the things you always want to do with your catalog is not just regurgitate information for your users, but give them more. Give them everything they want and more that they don't realize that they're missing, so that they come to accept and respect the quality of the catalog and want to rely on it to get that more information. And custom fields is a really easy way to do that. Okay, report catalog. Now, according to my definition of a data catalog, being a combination of a data dictionary and a business glossary, report catalog doesn't sit at the same level of those. But I wanted to talk about it here because it's a way to sort of marry these two sections of the catalog together. So I've defined the report catalog here as a presentation layer that documents and facilitates access to reports, the understanding of reports. So what I mean by that is it grabs the understanding and the application of the data sources, the assets, all of that from the data dictionary, and it pulls the concepts from the Business Glossary. Your measures and your dimensions should be concepts in your Business Glossary. It pulls them all together, marries them together, and presents them to the user so that they can get that comprehensive, holistic view of each of these reports. Some possible uses are over there on the left. I am going to talk about the permission-based access to that. Other benefits here, those last two, when you have all of your reports together, you can start to see things like duplicate reports or outdated or unused reports. Whereas if they're out there scattered across various systems, maybe you have some SSRS and some Power BI, or maybe some custom reporting. If they're scattered, distributed out there, it's hard to identify those sorts of things. Bringing them together lets you identify those situations and deal with them. Here's what the report catalog looks like in Dataedo. This is front end, where we're looking at the reports from Power BI and information about them. If we clicked on one of these, we would get different metadata. But the idea is being able to gather together that information and present it to users so that they can understand. As far as the permission-based access, what has happened here is we have created a business domain for finance and operations, and we've linked to that these reports that are pertinent to that team or that department. This enables them to very quickly, very easily access the reports that are pertinent to them. They don't have the burden of browsing multiple systems or long lists of reports or folders or whatever to find the stuff that's pertinent to them. It's presented right here to them. The idea here is that you or your editor, whoever it is, does the hard work of linking these things to the areas so that the business users don't have to. The business needs to use the data catalog in order for it to be useful. If they don't use it, then why have we gone to the work of creating it? We want to make them use it. We want to enable them, make it easy for them to use it, and we want them to be successful. I spoke about the breadth and depth of knowledge there that's available to them. When a business user goes into the data catalog, they need to be able to trust that it's comprehensive. It has the breadth of knowledge. Everything that they can find that relates to their query needs to be included. They can't wonder if there are other assets that are available out there that are not included. The breadth needs to be comprehensive, and the depth, it needs to give them all of the knowledge they need, give them all of the understanding, and hopefully, I mentioned that added value. That's where they really start to feel and resonate with the catalog and come to rely on it over time. So that is what I wanted to talk about regarding the basics of the data catalog today.
All right, so today I wanted to show you the progress of dashboards in Dataedo. And one of the meetings previously I shown you the concept, and right now we already have some nice dashboards to show in the product. This will be released, I believe, in September, so next month. All right, yeah, so you see my screen over here. So we have introduced a new sections over here, dashboards. We changed the order slightly, and we'll be updating the navigation in the release after that even more to make it even more useful for the special business community. Okay, so speaking of dashboards, we'll be shipping a couple of predefined dashboards, and we'll be adding more in the future. And in the future, we'd also like to provide to you the option to build your own dashboard. So you might have seen this dashboard previously. This is the usage dashboard, where you can see how many people were active every month in your organization, broken down by portal and desktop. Over here, we have top users. Okay, and we added a couple of more. Okay, let's look at this one first. So data catalog is a high-level overview of what you have imported to your catalog. So we have 5,000 assets, and they are broken down by different types and sources, and over here by source and also types. So the different approach. Yeah, how many terms we have defined and how many keywords we have indexed in the catalog. Let's see this one maybe. Those dashboards have tabs, and this one is still in progress. So the import tab lists all the imports that were executed in our system. Or the scanning, and you can see the type. So we last time we shipped the scheduler. We encourage you to use the schedule all the imports using the scheduler rather than command line. Yeah, so this is easy way to browse what happened in your system. Over here we have a tab that shows errors in our SQL parser for building lineage. Yeah, that way it would be much easier for us and you to debug the system, what went wrong. And we'll add a couple of other tabs here so you can have better visibility of what's going on with the scanning. System dashboard has an overview of your system. So over here you see the size of the repository. Over here, you can also see how your tables grow over time. We did some cleansing over here. You can see that the number of the size of the tables dropped. You can see here as well broken down in pie chart. Yeah, this is an overview of users who made changes every month. Yeah, that deserves its own section. It's still in progress, so we'll probably present this on the release webinar, and an overview of the installations. These tabs show you the overview of the details of the sizes and of particular tables. Yeah, good for the system admin. Okay. Yeah, the last one I'd like to show you right now is the quality insights. So that's the dashboard that uses data from data profiling, and we identify elements in the catalog in your data that can potentially have some data quality issues. So on the first tab over here, we have empty columns. So we have tables that have some rows, but the column itself is empty, right? So over here you can see that there are some rows, but the source ID is empty. Empty tables, so 0 rows. Columns that have just one value, and you can see what is the value over here. Next section shows you missing data, which is potentially missing data. So if you have integer, things like ID, and there's a min and max, but there are some missing values, you can see those columns here. For instance, maybe some rows were deleted, and that's not desirable. Same for dates. Yeah, and here are some selected columns that have empty or null values, but they probably shouldn't. Such things as IDs and similar. And the last one is this one's empty, but it will present the tables that have a suspicious amount of growth of rows, or the ones that lost some rows. So things you could have a look at. Okay, so we'll be adding more and more dashboards, and in the future you'll be able to build your own dashboards with our predefined widgets or write your own widgets using SQL. Okay, that's it for the overview.
Awesome, thanks, Piotr. And we do have a couple of questions. So Jeff, first off, asked, does Dataedo connect to reports in Power BI? So can you search, click, and then permissions be handled in Dataedo or Power BI? So I shared that link with you, Jeff, and for anyone else interested in Power BI. Piotr, is there anything you wanted to add to that? There was also a question, is the metadata available via API so developers can search, utilize the metadata in the catalog, whereas standard looking up in the UI is not useful?
So the API, yes, we released the public API in the last release, and we are adding more endpoints. So yes, that's the answer is yes. Regarding Power BI, I can search, click, and I'm not sure about the Power BI question. I don't know what you mean, Jeff.
Richard, you seem like you might have an idea.
I can't get off mute there. Yeah, the answer is yes. You can embed the URL that will take you directly to that report out of Dataedo to Power BI to load that. There is an option to load it in, through the Dataedo interface, but that's really for just visibility. To actually use the report, you can embed that URL and jump out to your Power BI reporting.
Perfect. A few other questions. So that was Jeff. There was also a question of, is everything manually entered when writing the definitions, both for Business Glossary and Data Dictionary? So for the Data Dictionary, if you have, and Richard, Piotr, if you want to jump in at any point, feel free. But if you have descriptions in your sources, majority of the time we can pull that in. For the definitions, for Business Glossary, typically that's independent to each organization. So that would be something that you would come in and input. Some organizations have business glossaries that are already stored in Excel. And for those cases, we can mass import those and catalog it for you. Anything that you guys want to add to that?
I'll add that, yeah, those definitions that when I was showing that field source description, that's the one that was imported from the sources. Obviously, if your engineers didn't populate, or add a comment to those, that would be blank. But yeah, those come in, and then you have the ability to write descriptions. We do have an ability to import those if you have a whole bunch of descriptions in Excel. We can mass import those and apply those to the dictionary. Same thing for the glossary. We also have a built-in AI supported documentation that works for tables, views, columns, glossary terms, etc., where you can very quickly, get an AI generated description, which is editable, and then you can either save it in its own field, AI documentation, or you can simply add it to your description, depending on which is the appropriate action there.
Cool, thank you. And I believe you do, but do you typically store the DDL scripts for table and database entries in the catalog?
I'm pretty sure we don't. We can generate DDL and for export, but I'm pretty sure we don't get the DDL that was used to create those objects in the first place.
Okay.
We do not know.
Got it. And then we covered the API question. So are these dashboards only available for admins, correct?
No. I mean, those dashboards will be will input permissions, so you'll decide which dashboards which user groups have access to, and also even to the widget level. So you can say dashboard is visible for everyone, but not everyone sees all the widgets.
And for Centil's question surrounding, is the dashboard feature available with data creator license? Yes. So both the editors and the viewers are able to see the dashboard in the Dataedo web catalog.
Isn't Data Creator the editor for the old one? So basically, it's available for Dataedo subscription, not the old Enterprise or maybe this is Data Catalog. So we have a lot of legacy plans, right?
Yes. So for the current plan on our website, it is. If you are working on a legacy license, but in all cases, if you have the report catalog as part of your subscription, then yes, you will be able to see it with any license type if you're up to date. We do have some legacy customers that joined and are paying a legacy price for where that's not in. Does Dataedo automatically search the Power BI tag content for the report catalog?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and including lineage, so end-to-end column level lineage, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, and what I'll also do is, so I tagged in the Power BI overview earlier. I'll also tag in the documentation. So this shows exactly what we import and support for Power BI, which is a great resource. Couple questions coming out of Ahmed. Can an integration allow an ETL tool to utilize your data source connectors?
I'm not sure if that question.
No.
Okay.
Can import ETL into the tool as a connector? Yes. If you're saying, can we use the database as an ETL tool or with an ETL tool, I think the answer is no. So,
and then the next question, can we use Dataedo to feed an ETL tool which has an automation capabilities building data warehouse? No. So that would be, so Dataedo is a reverse engineering tool with some data modeling or DDL export capabilities, but no, that wouldn't be something that we could do. And then do we have a connector for vector databases? I do not believe we do.
Vector, no, we don't. I'm thinking, can we build a custom connector?
We may with interface tables, but it depends on the structure.
Yeah.
Right? That would be worth a call. So if you're interested in connecting to vector and you're using the tool, it would be worth setting up a call. And we can run through those in that. Yeah, and if you want to reach out to either me or Richard, we can get you in with a metadata consultant. Nick, are changes to the catalog version control and his history available? Yes. So all history changes are tracked in the tool, and you have an audit log to view those.
Yeah, I mean, not everything, right? If you delete objects, they are deleted. But if you edit descriptions and all kinds of custom fields, then yeah, it's tracked.
And then for the opposite of that is the schema changes. So as schema is changing within your data sources, we do track that on import of what tables were added, deleted, changed, etc. In the data source. So that there's two ways of that there's
another bit of history that's available there, and that is the history of version upgrades to your repository. So you will obviously you need to keep your installation of desktop portal and the repository on the same major version, and you can go, there is a history of that in the repository itself. So if you lose access to one, you can always go to the repository and find which version you're supposed to be using.
And then another question, do we support Postgres? We do natively support Postgres. And I'm also going to share in the chat with everyone the link to the data sources. So here we have, I believe at this point, over 60 different data sources. And that's ranging from applications to ETL, databases, reporting, and even more than that. And so everything that we have listed there for native connectors, we automatically export that metadata. And for a few others, we have some stipulations. A lot we do automated lineage with as well. So you can see the outline of all of that in our documentation on the link that I just sent. On the subject of schema change tracking, does the connection run on a schedule and can alert the steward of change? So it does run on a schedule, so you can schedule those imports to occur. As far as alerts for a steward of a change, we don't have that in place now, but it is on our roadmap.
Yeah, and also I don't think I've shown you let me try sharing once again. Sorry, it's a long process. I have too many tabs open. So we have the homepage. Not an easy task dashboard here. We have a homepage. I don't think I've shown you, but we have a shiny new homepage, and it's also a dashboard. So these widgets are configurable. We have an overview of community. We have an overview of your workflow tasks, objects that were newly published, and we also started tracking what you're browsing. So your recently viewed and most frequently viewed objects, and also bookmarks. So over here, we're planning to add, and it could be done, as I said, it's easier to we can add those dashboards. Our support could add more widgets and dashboards before the release. So we could make a summary of schema changes tracking. So you could have like a widget with most recent schema changes. Worth mentioning.
Awesome. And then the one last question here, maybe not last, depending. Does it cater for version control?
Yeah, that's not really. We had a discussion a couple of times. The last time was yesterday, actually. If you could share more information on how would you see that? Would you like to maybe make a dump and upload it to Git or?
And so Marley, I put in my email there. If you want to email me directly regarding the version control, it would be great to have the feedback because it is something that we're interested in implementing. I see Mindy has to drop. Thanks, Mindy. Outside of that, I know that we're close on time here, and we might actually be over. I believe we might have done it for 45 minutes. So, in closing, I know that we have a mix here of new customers and potential customers and even legacy customers. So what I would like to do, and Anya, I believe you're in here as a listening in, but I believe we should share with everyone a few different resources for those data sources we can connect to, just a link there. And then we'll also make sure to get everyone resources to, and you can find them on our website, we can send you the links to both the book a demo. So if you want to learn more, discuss more of our product functionalities, we'll provide a link to book the demo and also to try Dataedo. So you have both the option to do a free trial or to do a product tour, which is where you can see a test environment, click around and check it out. And thank you for that, Anya. And for customers, as you know, you have access to Richard's brain for any of your questions, projects. So absolutely utilize that. So we're right at time. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. Appreciate everyone joining, and thanks Richard and Piotr for showing us around.
You're welcome. Everybody have a good day. Thanks for joining.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.